Hey guys, before we get to tonight's episode, I just wanted to thank you all so much for listening to our inaugural episode, and I wanted to let you know that we are going to address some of the audio issues that we had in our first episode, and we're going to do everything that we can to put out the best possible podcast for you guys. That being said, thank you so much for listening, and let's get right to it. Thanks.
$500, baby, and you can pick my teammate.
Give him the chump.
You mean play basketball?
Yo, what up, Elo? What's up, baby? Just kicking this in 92 for the basketball. Check it out. Swing.
Hey guys, welcome to the second ever episode of the Cream Team NBA podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Markwith. Here with me, as always, is my good friend, Hunter Gonzales. How's it going, Hunter?
Hey guys, it is going fantastic. Glad to be on here. Glad that y'all are on here listening to this podcast today. It's going to be pretty awesome, guys. If y'all listen to the first one, go back and listen to it if you haven't, by the way. But if y'all listen to the first one, y'all know that we're just sitting here just having fun on tonight's a Thursday night, or Wednesday night actually. Just having fun on a Wednesday night talking about the game that we know and love a lot, basketball. So we're just going to get right into it. There hasn't been a whole lot of stuff going on besides a couple new hirings and of course the conference finals. But Griffin, just tell me, I know that we talked about how much we hate Russell Westbrook and how much we hate the Thunder, but they came out and they shocked everybody 2 nights ago. And just tell me, what did you think about that?
I mean, I thought it was wild. I was not expecting them to take Game One at Oracle, but at the same time, you know, we have to understand that Oklahoma City does have two of the best five players in the league. As much as we dislike Westbrook and Durant in your case, they are, you know, two of the most dynamic players in the league. And I think, you know, the series is going to come down to if Golden State can, you know, obviously they've already coalesced as a team, but if they can really you know, just gel together over this 7-game series. That's how they're going to beat those two guys. Because really, it's Golden State, excuse me, is a far better team than Oklahoma City.
Yep.
But Oklahoma City does have two extremely, extremely talented guys. So if Golden State does not get production from everyone, not just Curry, not just Thompson, not just Green, they can lose the series, unfortunately. So
No,
that's my take. What do you think?
You know, I agree with you. I really do, and I know that kind of makes for a boring podcast, but no, I agree with you just because of the fact that, I mean, do I see the Warriors actually losing this? No, we talked about this, but
Right.
I mean, I think if you're the Thunder, winning a game in Oracle is, I mean, that's a feat in and of itself. And then especially winning a game
Absolutely.
against the Warriors this year when they've been so dominant, that's a great thing to happen. But you know, I don't think it bothered the Warriors. And I was just looking right before we hopped on and we were talking about this. I was just looking at the score. Like midway through the fourth quarter, and the Warriors were just killing them, and I think that
Yeah, they're up. Just an update for everyone. It's 11:24 Eastern Time. Warriors are currently leading the Thunder 117 to 84. So they really just came out and kicked their butts tonight,
and
which is to be expected.
that is what we expected game one. I think it kind of brings me back to the Thunder a couple series ago against the Mavericks. The Mavericks being in Dallas, I'm not a Maverick fan, of course, but being in Dallas, I kind of get the inside scoop on them. And the Thunder, I believe, were in the same situation that the Mavericks were in a couple series back, where the Mavericks stole. I think it was game two. I think is what it was.
Yeah,
And
they did.
The Thunder just came out and just stole that game, and really they had no reason stealing it, but they did, and it makes for some good talk. But it's exactly that. It's just good talk because come tomorrow we're going to be talking about how badly the Warriors just decimated them and how awful the Thunder looked in this game, and so
Right.
it's pretty. I mean, there's really not much to talk about in it because it was something that surprised everybody, yes, but it's not something that we could see continuing. So there's not much to talk about if that makes any sense.
I think I was watching. Yeah, no. Well, first of all, I agree, but I just wanted to say that as much as the Thunder taking Game One and at Oracle surprised me, at the same time, it's not necessarily out of character for the Warriors because we've seen it before. These guys, as good as they are, they do take games off occasionally, and they don't. Not, I don't want to say not take their opponents seriously, but they kind of sort of play it like it's an all-star game sometimes, and I think that's kind of what we saw on Monday night is that they didn't really give it their all. And I'm not making excuses for Golden State anyway, and I don't want to take anything away from the Thunder, but I do think that Golden State didn't really approach it with the kind of killer mentality that you need to have in the playoffs, but especially in a conference final series and against a team as talented as OKC. We see on Monday night, they just did not get any production from their bench. Iguodala didn't do much, although obviously he's excellent defensively. Azili didn't do hardly anything at all. Livingston was pretty brutal. They didn't get anything from Barbosa or Spades, and Bogut played very limited minutes. He's got the injury. And tonight, on the other hand, all those guys have been great. So, like I said, it's a team game when it comes down to it. As simplistic as that sounds, the Warriors need production from everyone if they want to beat, those two guys over on the Thunder. So I think it's just a matter of mentality for them. And tonight is as expected from my point of view. I'm not surprised at all that they came out and kicked him in the teeth.
Yeah, no, you brought up a good point. We'll go on to the Eastern Conference Finals here in just a second. But
Yeah.
you brought up a good point just talking about that bench. And, I mean, I don't care if it's the Warriors, if it's the Cavs, whoever it is, you need a bench to be a successful team consistently in the NBA. And they have proven that they have one of the best, if not the best, benches in the league. And they just so happen to have just a terrible night. I'm not even going to say it was an off night. It was a terrible night. And that's just something that it just doesn't happen often. And so props to the Thunder for winning, but we're not going to be saying that in 4 games when the Warriors have won the series 4-1. But do we even see the Eastern Conference Finals? Do we even see that series being 4-1 Cavs, or do we see it being 4-0 Cavs?
If you don't mind, really quick, I'm looking forward to discussing the Cavs drubbing of the Raptors. But before we get to that, I'm curious as to what your take is. Obviously, we didn't watch the game tonight because we both have families and we want to record. But in Game 1, I know they stuck Green on Robertson so that he could sort of freelance the lane and rim protect, especially with the fact that Bogut got limited minutes.
Yep.
So they put him on Robertson and sort of, like I said, allowed him to roam. And we haven't done a lot of analysis on this show yet, although I think that we will. But I wanted to get your analysis on what you think they should do with Green. Now, mind you, they may have done something completely different tonight, and that may have worked very well. But I'm interested to see what you thought.
This is going to be all for naught if come tomorrow we look at the tape and we listen to people and read things and we see that they stuck Green on Westbrook or they stuck Green on Durant. But I love putting him on Robertson simply because of the fact that we know Robertson cannot shoot.
Right.
And so when you do that, it allows him to just be that presence in the paint, because that's as weird as it is. Draymond is he's a great interior defender. As weird as it is, he's just he's strong. He's quick enough to keep up with people. So I honestly, I mean, I'm no coach or anything, and I'm not going to act like I know more than Steve Kerr, but I really think from a strictly game plan point that if you can put Green on somebody who doesn't shoot, because Durant's going to get his points no matter what, Westbrook is going to get his points no matter what, whether it be efficient or inefficient, they're going to get their points. If you can just make it to where those two guys have got to beat your 5 guys as the Dubs, then I think that you're set. And so if that means putting Green on Robertson, or that means putting Green going small and putting Green on Ibaka or somebody like that, then by golly, do it, because whatever they're doing tonight, I wish that I watched the game so that I could see, but whatever they're doing tonight worked. But I do not disagree with putting him on Robertson and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. And man, looking back on it, I'm not exactly sure why that didn't work. I'm not sure if they were running Durant off of something because I also didn't watch all of Game One,
Hmm.
so it's kind of shoddy analysis and preparation on our part. But nonetheless, from what I saw, they were sort of they were actually give Billy Donovan some credit. He was actually running some decent stuff, and they were although Durant had an off night, they were sort of getting him. Off of flex stuff and off of good cuts to where the fact that Green was, protecting the paint didn't really matter much because Durant
Yeah,
was getting good looks. And although he wasn't hitting, it's just the threat of him being out there and the threat of how good a scorer he is. So
exactly.
I'm interested. I think Kerr is a great coach, and I think that he will make the adjustments necessary. But we'll see. Do you want to move on to Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, I mean, this is either going to be a topic that's going to go on entirely too long, or it's going to be a topic that is entirely too short. There is no in between about this. I'm going to go back to the original question of do we even see us talking in week and a half? Do we even see us saying, wow, the Cavs looked great in that 4-1 series win? Or do we see it as a, wow, the Cavs looked absolutely unbeatable in that 4-0 series sweep? Which one do you
Right.
think?
Well, it's funny. It seems like we're just going to talk about this every episode, but I don't think. I do think that it's going to be an extremely short series, and honestly, I almost want to give Toronto a win, but I just don't think it's plausible. I want to say that they take one at home, but I don't. I just don't think they will. The Cavs,
With who? The luck of Drake? I mean,
right? Yeah, maybe so. Oh God, talk about people you don't like, but once again, it's so simplistic, but they just don't have a guy to guard LeBron James. You saw it in Game One. Carroll, I mean, they brought him in, and granted, he still might not be 100%. I know he's been battling
hmm
uh, injuries the whole year, but you saw. I don't know if you watched that game, but there were a couple times where, particularly in the first half, where LeBron was just blowing by the dude
Yep.
on the baseline and just dunking the ball easily with no help defense, and Mark Jackson was getting really upset. Like, where's the help? What he was not conceding is the fact that Cleveland plays five out, so
Yep.
every single guy on the court is a threat. There is no help if LeBron beats Carroll to the basket
hmm
because the help is 22 feet or
Yep.
25 feet away from the basket, making sure their 3 point shooters don't get open. Toronto just does not have an answer on defense, and frankly, they don't have enough firepower on offense, especially when DeRozan and Lowry have been so brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
not brutal. They've been very inconsistent. They both had a couple good games this playoffs, but they've also had a lot of really bad games. I don't see it going more than 4 games. Honestly, if it went 2 or 3 games and the league just said, "All right, this is too brutal. We're going to call it," I would be happy because let's just see Cavs versus whoever comes out of the Western Conference because
Ex-
this is just brutal.
it is. You are absolutely right. It really just boils down to that. There is you're talking about the Toronto defense. So let's just say, I mean, help defense. There is no way that Carroll can keep up with LeBron, which was proven in Game One. And then you got Valanciunas down low. Let's say he's down low,
But he's
which
hurt too.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, so you look and these guys. I mean, they're battling injuries, which is already they're already behind the eight ball. Just even if they were totally healthy, they're behind the eight ball. And then
Right.
you look and they're battling injuries, so that just puts them further behind the eight ball. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
and going to 7 games against the Heat, they're even further behind the eight ball. So it's just I firmly believe that this series is just going to be over before it even starts. They're going to get the doors blown off of them, and that's really all there is to it. There's nothing to talk about because LeBron, we always know he always finds it somewhere in himself to get just a little bit more out of himself in the playoffs.
Right.
And man, that team's just looking great. I mean, they haven't been defeated yet, and
No, they haven't.
if you can go into the finals, I don't care who it's against. If you can go into the finals 12-0, getting all that rest, and really they're not these
Sure.
guys aren't even playing the fourth quarter. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like the Warriors of the regular season, and just that they're playing 28, 29, 30 minutes a game,
Mm-hmm.
and they're fine. They're rested, and it's just it is unfair. The Cavs against the Eastern Conference is just it's purely unfair, and we just need to go ahead and fast forward to the finals and get it to where these people are hearing us talk about things that are that are a debate and not just purely facts. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of tough to make it, interesting and combative when the Cavs are such a clear favorite. And we can talk about this a little more if you like, but I think I'd just prefer to move on to more interesting stuff because end of story. It's not a series, and like you said, the Eastern Conference is just not competition for that Cleveland team.
That is so true, and you said the Eastern Conference, and that actually kind of segues into what I want to talk about now.
Okay.
How shocked were you that Phil Jackson dropped his ego and he called up Hornacek and said, "You know what? You have no ties to me. You don't have that. You're not in my coaching tree. You're not Brian Shaw. You're not Derek Fisher. You're not Kirk Rambis. You're not Luke Walton. You're not anybody that I have any ties to. Let's go ahead and be the. I want to make you the coach." And though it hasn't been made official. When people report it, that's as official as it needs to be. What are your
Right.
thoughts on that hire? Do you see him doing anything? And if you do see him doing anything, what is it?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on that. First, I do agree with you that it's not exactly what we expected out of Phil. Obviously, he wants a puppet. He's proven that with Fisher and
Yep.
Randmus. But I just don't think he necessarily had the option to get a puppet with with Walton being hired by LA. Um, and just I know there was say what you will about James Dolan, but he at the very least had the foresight to not want them to bring back Rambus, despite Phil's desires.
Good
But
call,
I don't
James.
think I still think, and you can disagree with this all you want if you so choose, but I don't necessarily think that Phil was biting the bullet or ceding some of his pride because I think if he was doing that, he would have hired David Blatt. And I think
Yep.
because I don't think Hornacek's going to necessarily be his puppet, but I guarantee you that he has a lot more control over Hornacek than he would Blatt. Obviously, Blatt showed in Cleveland that he's kind of a strong-willed guy, and he's not really willing to bend
That's a good point.
to the desires of the front office or his star player as much as some people may like. And I think that if Jackson were really kind of loosening the reins over that Knicks organization, he would have hired a guy like Blatt. And I don't necessarily think that Blatt is far and away a better coach than Hornacek. But I do think that Phil just kind of still wanted some control. That's just my take. What do you think?
It's you know since he went to New York, I have lost more and more and more and more respect with each passing day for Phil. And great
Yeah.
coach, yes, but and this was Stephen A. Smith said this a few months
Oh
back,
gosh, you're quoting Stephen A. Here we go.
I'm not a huge Stephen A. fan, but there are times when the guy says things that I agree with, and this is one of the things
Oh man,
is this guy, and I'm talking Phil. He
right?
never wanted to be in New York. He never did. The only
No,
reason
that's true. That's true.
and the only reason he did is because Dolan said, "You know what? I will give you what you want." And Phil
Right.
said,
He
"I
wants
want 10
control.
exactly." And I wanted a fat paycheck to just sit high and look pretty. And
Yeah.
I begin to question everything that happens in that New York Knicks front office because of the fact that it's the writing's on the wall that Phil's going to opt out of his contract after next year. He's going to go running back to his fiancee Jeannie in Los Angeles, and he's going to have that puppet that he so desperately wants in Luke Walton. And
Yeah.
the writing is on the wall for that, and so it kind of it leaves me a little bit confused as to what is what is the direction of this Knicks team because
Right.
they have no cap space. They, I mean, do they have maybe one or two young pieces? Yeah, but Melo being there has just destroyed that team, and it just, I don't think that Hornacek is being set up for success, and
No, he's not.
it's just it has me confused. It really does. That's all I can say.
Um, yeah, no, I agree. I'm also curious as to what Phil's end game is. Because it's interesting that like you said about LA, I do think that he wants to go back there and become, whether that's GM, president, whatever position he aims to fill.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended, but whatever position Phil aims to fill, it looks like he got it set up. Obviously Jeannie Buss is there, and now Walton is the coach of that team. So if he does choose to opt out and they choose to hire him, that's kind of a perfect spot with him. So that kind of just leaves the Knicks hung out to dry. And
Exactly.
I for one don't really have any sympathy for that organization with Dolan with the whole Melo thing. Speaking of, do you remember exactly what they gave up? I know they gave up a ton. If I remember correctly, it was like Gallinari,
Yeah, yeah,
Mozgov.
yeah. It was. You know what? Let me look that
Yeah,
up.
I'm about to look it up just so we
But it
don't
was
sound too stupid.
it was. I know it was Gallinari. I mean, it was things that just. Could he? Could you have argued that he was worth it? I guess if you were on a bunch of drugs, but I mean, if you were being real about it, there was no reason that he was worth it because Carmelo Anthony is what Carmelo Anthony is. We know what he is. He's not going to defend. He's not going. I mean, he was decent on the defensive side of the ball last year, but he's not. There's a lot of things that he's not going to do, and it's just kind of one of those things. Does his career average of, I don't know, 26, 27 points, does it really, is it worth what they gave up to just absolutely destroy this team? Because that is all that he has done, and that's not by any faults of his own, but he just, I mean, he's destroyed that team.
Yeah, I think looking back on it now, I believe it's been what 5 years. It's
2010, yep.
yeah, I think it's kind of inarguable that was an awful trade for the Knicks. I mean, look, they've only had, it's proven they haven't won anything. They had the one good year where they shot all the threes and they made a little run in the playoffs.
Yep.
But other than that, they've been awful. They've been cellar dwellers, for lack of a better word. And I'm looking at this trade now. It was, so the Nuggets dealt Anthony to the Knicks along with Chauncey Billups in exchange for Wilson Chandler, great all-around player. Definitely, Denver probably paid him too much this last year, but whatever. Raymond Felton's just kind of a fat guy.
But hey, Raymond has been decent in Dallas under the tutelage
He did have a good series against
of Rick
OKC.
Carlisle.
Gallinari, borderline all-star. Mozgov has been very productive until this year. He's been ailing a little bit. 2014 first-round pick. The swap rights in 2016, and Denver also somehow, I'm not sure what the dealings were, but Denver also got Costa Kufos from the Timberwolves in that trade. So, I mean, the Nuggets, I mean, it's wild that these New York franchises have made these, I'm obviously including the Brooklyn Nets. They've just made these awful deals that have really sort of neutered themselves in trying to get quote-unquote superstars that have just not translated to winning basketball for them. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and it's late at night, so I'm not thinking the best that I possibly could right now, so that I apologize. But I can't remember, was it a run and gun type attack when Hornacek was the coach in Phoenix?
Yes, I remember. Was it so last year?
They had Brandon Knight. I mean, that was back when they had those.
They almost made the playoffs, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
They were a really fun team to watch.
Yes, and so you look at that, even if they weren't running gun and they were just a fast-paced team, how in the world do you expect to be a fast-paced team with a ball stopper in Melo and
Melo too.
Robin Lopez at center and Porzingis at power forward? I mean, Aaron Aflalo at shooting guard. I mean, yeah, he's pretty athletic, and I can't even remember.
But he's older too.
Yeah, I mean, they are making. I would assume, unless they have something up their sleeves that we don't know about, shoot, they may trade the whole farm for somebody else. But they're going to make Hornacek leave his philosophy and adapt to Carmelo, which is once again Carmelo just, in your words, neutering this franchise and just leaving this franchise almost paralyzed because a coach has to play around him, a team has to be built around him, and things. And I wouldn't even be shocked if Melo's not there come this February or come next February
Right.
because he may waive his no trade clause. So it's just I'll get back to what I originally said. It's a very confusing move simply for the fact that the Knicks, you just can't put a finger on what they do. You just really can't. So
Yeah, I know. It's really just a defunct and incompetent franchise. And you know what's funny is that I kind of feel bad for Hornacek, being a Jazz fan and loving those '90s Jazz teams. I feel bad for him because first he had to deal with the dysfunction in Phoenix. That
yep.
front office, has stockpiled the wrong players
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. They've done it with point guards. They've ruined relationships with Dragic, with Isaiah Thomas, with both the Morris brothers.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a whole nother story. But
let
yeah,
me throw a chair at you, but I
right.
mean,
My gosh.
shout out
Um,
Marcus.
but yeah, he goes from one dysfunctional franchise in Phoenix to another one in New York, and who knows how it pans out. Hopefully it goes well. I like Porzingis. I think Phil has just been kind of riding the coattails of the Porzingis pick. Uh,
Exactly.
but I don't know, man. I kind of feel for the guy. Do you want to move on to the draft lottery and the whole Dikembe Mutombo incident?
Yes, and I hope that this topic can spur some talk within our fans, our listeners, our prospective listeners, because this is something that ever since '85 when the Knicks got Patrick Ewing, the accusations of fixing for the NBA draft lottery have been rampant, and it's something that honestly I just I'm not mad at him for doing anything. I'm not happy with him doing anything. It's once again that confused me because why even if you knew that it was happening, why would you be silly enough to post something on Twitter congratulating them? That I just don't understand it. What do you think about it?
Um, well, I don't know if you saw this, but supposedly the explanation was that, and I'm going to be honest with you, I do kind of buy it. I still have my suspicions, but I do kind of buy this explanation. So apparently, teams will send to certain alumni like a preset number of preset tweets that they should tweet out whenever something good is to happen. So
Okay.
say my employer gave a great example. She said, say the Hawks are about to win the NBA Finals in Game 7. Hawks would send four different congratulatory tweets to Dominique, one of their
Yeah.
their
All
famous
time.
alumni, and he would tweet one of those immediately as soon as it happens. So the theory is that they sent that to Dikembe. He didn't wait. He didn't wait for the lottery to actually happen. He just jumped the gun
No,
and
no,
sent it.
no.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. He said, "No, no, no, no waiting." And I love Dikembe, so I'm gonna defend him till I die. But supposedly that's it. What do you think? Do you buy that?
Do I see that happening? Yes. But my thing is how why are we not seeing Celtics players doing or old Celtics players doing this on Twitter? Why are we not seeing old Lakers players doing this on Twitter? So it just seems a little
Well,
bit.
because they didn't win.
No, no,
They didn't win the.
I know, but this was a day before that he announced it. I mean, he tweeted this. Draft lottery
It was
happened.
early in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he
Right.
he he tweeted it way earlier, so I can understand. Yeah, you send your legends, you send them stuff to post on Twitter. I understand that. Do I buy that? Absolutely. But what I don't understand is the timing of it. How do
Well,
may
so like they're anticipating or hoping that they win, so they give
yes.
them these texts in case that they win. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, no,
So
I understand that, but maybe it's just
okay,
a massive coincidence that Matumbo posted that and they just so happened to win.
right,
It just doesn't look good on the NBA's part when they still to this day suffer from accusations of fixing from that
right,
'85 Patrick Ewing draft, and so it
yeah,
just doesn't. It's something that honestly, I mean, people are just going to look over. I mean, it is what it is. It's draft lottery. It really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because this draft isn't going to be good. But we'll get to that in a second. But it just doesn't. it doesn't look good. Is really what it boils down to. If that makes any sense.
No, I agree completely. It doesn't. I mean, people have a good reason for suspicion. ESPN kind of we can we can talk about ESPN on another podcast and how garbage they are as a
Chris
organization.
Broussard, shout out, yeah.
Oh my god, multiple sources. But well, what's this show called? Oh, it's The Jump, and it's with Rachel Nichols and Amin Al Hassan, and they were like they did a whole segment about how they were confused as to why people were suspicious. And it's like, obvious. What do you mean? How are you confused?
Yeah.
Like the explanation is kind of shaky. Um, but nonetheless, I still think that Philly had like a 56% chance or something to win the lottery. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that is what actually happened. And but whatever. Let's move on to it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
We're talking about a draft lottery, possible scam fixing, and it leads to of all drafts to fix. Why would you fix a draft with a guy who took one or who made one 3-point shot in his college career, Ben Simmons, and Brandon Ingram, who people are comparing to Kevin Durant, but he is so far from Kevin Durant, other than the fact that he's African American, he's tall, and he weighs about 110 pounds soaking wet. So this is not, and I want your opinion on this, but this does not seem like the type of draft with the players or lack thereof that you would want to put a black eye around your league and fix a lottery. What do you think about it?
No, I agree completely. I don't think that would be in their best interest to do so. And I'm going to once again shout out one of my favorite podcasters and frankly my inspiration for podcasting, David Locke of Utah Jazz play-by-play fame. I was listening to his podcast and he said pretty much what we're saying. Look, this is a very weak draft, but supposedly a lot of these guys have. This is apart from the scam thing at this point. This is just talking about the draft. A lot of these guys seem to have high upside. So I wanted your take. Who do you think? Obviously, Simmons is the guy that everyone is going to point to as having the highest upside. But are there any other guys that sort of jump out to you that you think can have a major impact in the league?
I honestly think, and I don't think I'm alone in saying this, but I believe I'm in the minority in saying this. I think when we look back on this draft in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the player that we are going to say was the best pick from this year's draft was Dragan Bender, the power forward from Croatia, who's 18, 19 years old. I don't necessarily buy the Porzingis comparisons. I think there's just he's from Croatia, Latvia area, and he's a white guy who's kind of tall and he's lanky and he can shoot the ball. Yeah, somewhat, but the comparisons end in the fact that he's tall, he's white, and he's lanky. I mean, they're different players, but I think that when all is said and done, I think he's going to be the best player because Ben Simmons, you have to shoot in today's NBA. You have to be able to shoot, and Ben Simmons can't shoot the ball. And I believe that Ingram, he just he didn't kill it in the college ranks up until probably December, January is when he really hit his stride. But I don't buy him being a necessarily star. Maybe an all-star, yeah, maybe once or twice in his career. But I don't buy anybody in this draft class being an absolute superstar. But if I had to say, it would probably be Bender. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you have to say about it?
I do agree. First, I wanted to ask, did I ever tell you that Ingram completely posterized a kid that I played with in high school? I got to show you that clip if I haven't yet. Dude tried to take a charge, and Ingram went right over the top.
Yep.
I think it was number one on on ESPN's top plays. But I was going to ask, have you watched any film of Bender? Because I've watched a little bit, and it seems to me that the Porzingis comparisons make a little bit of sense. I know people always stereotype with race and origin, so it's kind of misleading. But he is very long. He does have range, and necessarily. He's not quite as big as
I
Porzingis.
think he's 7 foot, like 220, I think is what he is, or something like
Right, and
that.
he doesn't necessarily seem to have like the insane length that
Uh-huh.
Porzingis does, but he looks, and this is international film, so take it with a grain of salt, I
Yep.
guess. I know some people hate international basketball for whatever reason, but he looks more solid. I think they're both good athletes, but he just, like I love Porzingis, but you look at Porzingis and you're kind of just like, the dude looks like a baby giraffe out there. Like he's just, he's kind of flailing around. Bender looks super solid. He finishes at the
He's
rim very
extremely
well.
fluid.
He's a great shot blocker, just like Porzingis. He has great range. So, I mean, honestly, I'm right there with you. I think that this guy, when we look back on it, he could definitely. Obviously, there are so many factors that go into how a guy performs in the NBA, but this guy definitely has a shot to make a huge impact and be the guy when we look back at this draft that we say for sure would have went number one and was the best guy to come out of it.
Yeah, I remember watching because I'm a nerd, guys, and y'all will quickly find this out, but I love reading mock drafts like 2, 3 years in advance. So like guys who are juniors in high school right now, I love reading those types of mock drafts. But I remember reading, I think he's 19 right now. I remember reading, it was either 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was two, about him, and people were like, "Watch out for this guy. He's already he's already playing in the pro leagues over in Europe because you can
Right.
be like four and playing in the pro leagues in Europe." But he was playing in them, and so I watched some film on him, and he looks like a guy who, as always, when you come from Europe over, you have to adjust to the game because it's a totally different game. It's a big man oriented game over there, and you come over here and big men are non-existent. So there's a bit of a learning curve to it. But do I believe? I think he's. I'm going to compare him to Porzingis in this sense, where people were saying Porzingis needs 2, 3, 4 years, and then he will be worthy of his draft pick. I believe that Bender will be the same thing, and he will actually
Yeah.
be that. He will take 2, 3, 4 years to achieve who he is, but I think when he achieves who he is, if he's in the right system, and we'll get to that in team oriented things here in a second, but if he's in the right system, I believe that he can succeed. I really firmly do. But with that being said, let's just jump into the team oriented thing. Who do you well, I don't know where the Jazz pick. It's probably 14, 15 range.
It's 12.
It's 12. Okay. So who are you jonesing for them to get?
Uh, um, it's tough. There are four guys that are on my radar, and believe it or not, I don't have much sway in the Jazz organization, so it doesn't really matter who I want to take. Um, but obviously, as we have discussed before, and we'll discuss time and time again, the Jazz have major holes to fill. They need wing depth and they need a point guard. Sheldon Mack did a very very good job filling in the second half of the year. Obviously, the Jazz hope that Exum can become worthy of the number four pick or whatever he was a couple years ago.
Four, I think.
But that's a big if. So in this draft, I think they need to fill one of those two holes, possibly both. If they can. So I've heard Valentine's name floated around.
Who's what?
The Luwawu guy out of. I'm sorry.
Let's speak on Valentine just super quick. I mean, like 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what he's going to be in the NBA?
Do you want to hear my take on it?
Yeah, real quick. What is your take on what he's going to be in the NBA?
I think he'll be bad. I don't think he'll be good. He's 6'6", 210. He's got decent size. He's a shooting guard. He's got a little bit of a handle, and he can play with the ball in his hand a little bit, which would be good for the Jazz. Like I said, like we talked about last episode, he could sort of relieve some of the stress, the ball handling stress that Hayward and Hood so often take on. And I know we've talked about this off air before. He's 23. He's a senior. Those guys don't have a lot of upside. You kind of know what you're getting.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know. I'm just not thrilled about the pick. I don't necessarily think he'll be a huge bust or anything, but I don't think he'll be good. I just don't. I didn't see. I haven't watched a lot of him, but I have watched some of him. I don't necessarily think that he's a guy that's going to change the fortune of any franchise.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I totally agree with that spot on analysis, and it's not just you saying that. I remember reading a couple months back, people were trying to put him in the same class as like I almost said Denzel Green, Draymond Green,
it's absurd. Just because
exactly. They're just saying simply because he went to Michigan State and things like that. But I don't think he is anything special to write home about. And it kind of, and I mentioned it earlier in the lottery. This is not a good draft, and I'll get into
no,
it.
it's
I'll
not.
get into it with the Celtics, but it's just not a good draft, and especially NBA drafts are very tough. You have your top three, four guys, and then when you're picking in a spot like 12 or the Jazz are,
Right.
there's never like great players. You find the great players one, two, three, four, five, maybe, and then you find them like the Spurs always find them like 59 and 60. But
Yeah, that's
but
funny.
everybody else finds them in just random spots, and so it kind of leaves the Jazz in a bad spot because there's not going to be, and I'm going to ask you who your three other guys are, but the, there's not a good, it's a tough, very tough spot to pick in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It is because, and I honestly think it's always a tough spot to pick in. Obviously, unless the draft is super deep, but particularly this year when it's just like there's just not that many guys. I do think there's some guys with pretty big upside. Like Sabonis jumps out to me
Yep.
as a guy that could have some great upside,
Gonzaga.
but obviously the Jazz don't really have a whole. I guess we could use a third big. As much as I love Jeff Livy, I don't think he's necessarily the third big. Uh, we have Favors, we have Gobert, we have Lyles, so we don't necessarily need a front court spot. So I guess the two other guys I'm looking at was the Timothy Luwawu, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, out of France, and
Oh
Furkan
yeah.
Korkmaz out of Turkey. So there's a couple of things you need to take into consideration here. Luwawu is 21 years old, so he's another guy that's not going to have a lot of upside. He's a 2-3. He's a flex guy. He's got comparable size to Washington, so I honestly think I don't think there's going to be much of a difference in that pick. Korkmaz, on the other hand, is a little bit taller, a little bit slighter, but he's only 19 years old. He's going to probably be stashed over in Turkey for 2 or 3
Mm-hmm.
years, so that's something you got to take into consideration. And I think like I said, I'm not in the deep cuts of the Jazz organization, so I don't know what they're thinking. But I do think that they want to make the playoffs next year, and they want to make the playoffs for the next couple years to come. So I'm not sure if they're willing to stash a guy. I could be completely wrong. Who knows? And I know they have drafted international multiple times in the past. If you look at Gobert, look at Neto, look at Place, look at all those guys. But my instinct is that they want a guy who can give them depth on the wings and who can handle the ball, and they want him now. So I do think that they'll probably take Valentine, much to my dismay.
Hey, that's I like the way you close that up because it's very good because of the fact that you are realizing that though you're a fan, you have those fandoms, but you're also being very very real with what they're gonna look at getting, and that's
Right.
really good. And I'm gonna quickly talk about the Celtics, and then we're gonna
Oh,
wrap it up,
absolutely. Go and
guys.
dive into it, man.
But the Celtics are
Well, can I ask you something really quickly?
yeah.
Just to obviously go into it as deep as you want. But they have so many picks in this draft, as we discussed before.
Yep.
Do you want, and I know you obviously like Bender, do you want them to take Bender with the third?
No, I do
Do you
not.
want
I do
to? Okay.
not. And I'm gonna explain why. So it's not a matter of taking X, Y, or Z player. It's a matter of the Celtics. When you really look at it, the Celtics have, I mean, every position they're fine at. I mean, maybe big men, yeah, maybe, but they're a little bit hesitant with those big men. I think, I don't, once again, I don't, just like you, I'm not deep into the Celtics organization, and really they're not going to listen to me. If they do listen to me, shout out to you, Danny Ainge. But,
He finally
um,
listens to someone, and it's you. It's Hunter Gonzalez.
but I don't, it's Sullinger may be back, Johnson may be back, Ripko may be back, but their guys are kind of just set. I mean, they've got Isaiah Thomas, they got Jay Crowder. They hopefully they bring back Evan Turner. They got Avery Bradley. I mean, so they have their set guys, and this draft, just like I said, now this is my fourth time saying it. It's just not a good draft, and it's bad because they have so many picks, and in any other draft, they can package all these picks that they have. I think I read 7 or 8 right before the show started. They can package them all for a great player, and I'm still holding out hope that they're going to do that. But I mean, if they pick somebody, go healed. I guess it's kind of just throw your hand in a hat and guess.
You want healed?
I don't mind healed simply for the fact that
Yeah.
he scares me because I see him as a better version of R.J. Hunter, and R.J. Hunter didn't play. He was over in
Who
the
went to my
D-League.
current school,
Exactly,
Georgia State.
exactly,
I had 2 classes with him,
exactly.
and he seemed like a tool, but whatever. Continue.
He's the star of a small school. Yeah, what do you expect?
His
But
dad's the coach.
yeah, I mean,
He's a worse version of Doug McDermott.
but and exactly, and so I don't. It scares me. Buddy Hield's a good shooter, and shooting is, I mean, it translates anywhere unless your name's
He's
Sharon
like
Fredette.
DeMar DeRozan, I think. He's a bad shot maker, but he's certainly a bad shot taker. He takes a lot of tough shots.
Exactly. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of, and I know this doesn't make for fun listening, and we're about to wrap it up, guys, but I just don't, there's not a name that jumps out. There's not a name where I'm like, you know what, do it. Bender,
Right.
no, simply for the fact that they already have so many big men, and every big man that they've drafted in the past few years, besides, I guess you could say, Olynyk, who finally broke out this year, and maybe Sullinger if the dude wasn't 786 pounds, but I think they're kind of a bit timid to go after a big man, especially somebody who can't help them right now. They're in the same boat as the Jazz. They need
Yeah,
a
that's
guy.
true.
They need a guy who can help them right now, and quite frankly, none of these guys can. So I hope with their draft pick, they select a guy who they want and they go trade for him, if that
Right.
makes any sense. So with that being said, guys,
Can I just say really quickly?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but if I'm in the Celtics position, I do my number one option is do exactly what you said, and that's package the deals for a proven impact guy right now.
exactly.
But if that's not on the table, if they can't get something done, I take Bender with the third solely because I kind of like Olynyk, I kind of like Sullinger. They both had problems, one being injury and one being weight. And frankly, they haven't proven that those guys are super heavy impact guys in the league. They're decent for sure,
Yep.
but the Celtics don't want to be decent. Obviously, they want to win championships. That's the tradition of that franchise, and they want to continue to do that. So I think you kind of got to take a gamble with, like, Fields, another older guy that's not going to have a ton of upside in the league.
You know
All
who
the
he
Steph
is.
Curry's comparisons are absurd. First of all,
Bogus.
It's so stupid. But yeah, I think you kind of got, if I'm in their position, once again, not the GM of any organization, let alone the Celtics, but I think I would take a shot with Bender. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. I know you didn't ask for it, but
Hey, no, 2 cents is always good. But no, it's going to be interesting, guys. It really is, and I hope that, man, y'all connect with this. Y'all go on to Reddit. We're trying to work to get this thing on iTunes. But y'all just spread it with these people. Spread it with your friends. Spread it with your family. Spread it with whoever you see, guys, because we want to make this not for our sake, but for y'all's sake. We're doing this to have some fun. We enjoy doing this, and we just want to make your workday enjoyable. Because if y'all's job is anything like mine, you don't like it, and you need something to get.
I love my job.
Yeah, but you got an easy job. But what we'll say, guys, hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll be back probably within the next couple days. We're looking at probably Saturday, Sunday. Griffin and I need to talk about it. But we'll be back, guys, soon. And hope that y'all enjoyed it. Went a little bit longer than last one. But
Yeah.
hope that it was great. And look forward to seeing y'all then, guys. Adios.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see you soon. Awesome. Thanks, Hunter.
Bye-bye.